All right, let's dive into a really bizarre legal mystery. Imagine this. Two countries argue over a border for years. They finally go through this whole legal process, they get a binding decision, and then one of them just turns around and claims the ruling doesn't exist. Not that it's wrong, but that it literally, poof, vanished into thin air.
So that's really the heart of it, isn't it? How can a formal, binding legal decision, something that's supposed to be the final word, be declared non-existent? It sounds like something from a movie, but it is exactly the argument one country made to the world's highest court.
Here's how we're going to unpack all this. First, we'll look at that wild vanishing ruling claim. Then we got to go back in time to trace the whole problem to a single line drawn during the colonial era. We'll break down the two critical questions the countries asked the judges, check out the baffling decision they got back, and then see how the top court finally sorted it all out. And you'll definitely want to stick around, because the ending shows why winning in court doesn't always mean the problem is actually solved.
Okay, so let's really dig into this central claim from Guinea-Bissau. You have to understand, this wasn't just a simple appeal. They weren't just saying, hey, we think the tribunal got the interpretation wrong. No, their claim was way more radical. They argued that the legal decision itself was a phantom, that it had absolutely no legal existence.
I mean, you really can't overstate what a huge deal this is in international law. After a long, expensive arbitration process, Guinea-Bissau basically took the final ruling, held it up, and said this is a meaningless piece of paper. This wasn't just a legal disagreement, it was a full-blown attack on the integrity of the whole system, and it immediately shot the tension way, way up.
So you have to ask yourself, why would they make such an extreme claim? What could possibly lead a country to do that? Well, the answer, like in so many international disputes, starts with a line drawn on a map, way back in the colonial era. So picture this. It's 1960. The colonial powers, France and Portugal, draw a line to separate their territories. But then, fast forward, Guinea-Bissau gains independence, and they look at that line and say, no way, that's a colonial relic, we don't accept it. Years of arguing led nowhere, so finally, in 1985, they both agreed to let a neutral three-person tribunal settle it once and for all. And this right here is the line at the very heart of the dispute. A very specific, straight shot out to sea from a lighthouse on the coast. For Senegal, this line was the legally binding border, full stop. But for Guinea-Bissau, it was an illegitimate leftover from colonialism that needed to be completely erased.
Now, here's where things get really, really interesting, because the way they asked the tribunal for a solution was incredibly specific. They didn't just say, hey, judges, draw us a fair border. No, instead, they set up this precise two-question legal fork in the road. This shows that two-step logic perfectly. Question 1 was a simple yes or no. Is that old 1960 agreement still legally valid today? But here's the crucial part. The tribunal was only allowed to even think about question 2, drawing a new border, if and only if the answer to question 1 was no. This logical gate is the hinge that the entire case swings on. So the tribunal goes away, deliberates, and in 1989 it delivers its ruling. And this, right here, is where our legal mystery truly kicks off, with a decision that looked clear on the surface but had a really confusing twist hidden in the details. Okay, so the tribunal answers question 1. By a vote of 2-1, they say, yes, the 1960 agreement is valid. It has the force of law. Now, if you're Senegal, you're thinking, great, we won. Clear victory. And because that answer to question 1 was yes, not no, the tribunal followed their instructions to the letter. They concluded, hey, we don't have to answer question 2. We don't need to draw a new line. Case closed, right? Well, not exactly. And boom, here is the twist that sent everything into chaos. The president of the tribunal, one of the two judges who voted yes, attached his own personal note to the official ruling. And in it, he basically says, I feel like our answer could have been a bit better. By doing this, he single-handedly created the legal loophole that Guinea-Bissau was about to drive a truck through. So, seeing that opening, Guinea-Bissau launched a two-pronged legal attack. Their main claim, the big one, was that the award was inexistent. Their logic was kind of simple. If the president's personal note contradicts his official yes vote, then there's no real majority. It's just a 1-to-1 tie. And then for backup, they argued the award should be null and void anyway, because the tribunal didn't fully finish its job. So this incredibly complex legal battle ends up right in the lap of the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. And now they have to untangle this whole mess and decide, did the 1989 award actually exist? And if it did, was it even valid? Well, the ICJ's verdict was an absolutely crushing defeat for Guinea-Bissau. The court unanimously, not a single judge disagreed, rejected the claim that the award was inexistent. Then they rejected the backup null and void claim by a huge majority. The message couldn't have been clearer. The 1989 award was real, and it was here to stay. So why did the court shut them down so hard? Well, it really boiled down to a few key things. First, a judge's formal vote is what counts, not any personal feelings they write down later. His yes vote stood. Second, the tribunal did exactly what it was told to do. The answer to question 1 was yes, so they were forbidden from answering question 2. And finally, forgetting the map wasn't great, but it wasn't a big enough mistake to throw out the entire decision. And so the mystery was solved. The International Court of Justice declared that the award was not a ghost, it was real, it was valid, and it was legally binding on both Senegal and Guinea-Bissau. But here's the final fascinating twist. Winning the legal case didn't actually resolve the entire underlying problem on the ground. The ICJ's ruling upheld an award that left a pretty significant piece of the puzzle still missing. And here's the issue. That original 1960 agreement was signed long before the modern idea of an exclusive economic zone even existed. That huge, valuable area offshore where countries control fishing and drilling rights. So by only ruling on that old agreement, the court settled the border for the waters close to shore, but left the most economically important part of the ocean completely undefined. The ICJ knew this was an incomplete fix. In its final judgment, the court pretty much told both countries, look, we've settled the legal question you asked us. The award is valid, but you still have a massive part of your border to figure out, and you two need to get back to the table and negotiate the rest. And that's really the ultimate takeaway from this whole strange case. Sometimes, even when a court gives you a legally perfect answer, it doesn't actually give you a practical solution. It's just a powerful reminder that in the real world, the final border isn't always drawn by a judge, but by two sides finally choosing to find some common ground. Thanks for joining us.